So everyone, taking advantage of this video where we're talking about our step monuments, I decided to invite psychologist Adriana Bueno, who is leading these projects, this group that's managing and overseeing all of this. A lot of people even ask me, wait a minute, a psychologist focusing all this work? Shouldn't it be an architect or an engineer? Adriana, let's go. What do you have to share with us then? Why a psychologist?
Hi, Felipe. How are you? Good afternoon. Well, it's interesting, but actually, it makes perfect sense. Obviously, we have engineers, we have architects, the whole team responsible for overseeing the construction of the project. But we also get involved because the stepped monument has everything to do with the development of human potential, which is precisely a specialty within my field, where we work exactly with this issue of developing human potential. And the stepped monument, it weaves through all of this, putting us in this position, which is exactly what our conversation today is about. We'll explain it better in a moment.
To understand, it all makes sense. Everything has a reason at Dakila, folks. Everything has a reason. Everything has a touch from the beings, right? Everything has a reason for being.
Frequency aspect.
Do you want to comment on anything?
I think as we go along, we can comment.
All right then. So, first spontaneous question. What are these step monuments? What is a step monument? Why do we even call them that? Because they're pyramids with steps, right? As you can see. So, can you give us a simple overview? Because there are a lot of people who aren't familiar with this. Technical, right?
The stepped monument, yes, they're pyramids with a stepped shape. That's where the name comes from. But actually, they're large quantum machines. We call them quantum generators, exactly because of the way they're shaped, which allows them to generate different kinds of energy. So that's why the stepped monument is, for us, a great quantum generator, a quantum machine at the service of pretty much all the actions and all the activities we carry out within the Dakila ecosystem. So, it aligns with everything we're working to make available to humanity. It's like the central hub of all knowledge, of the entire range of knowledge, possibilities, and conditions that we're developing. At the same time that it centralizes everything, as if it were the centralization of everything, but at the same time, it's also the great distributor of what we call infinite riches. Because when we talk about the quantum universe, we know we're dealing with possibilities, endless possibilities, when we discuss this topic. And if beyond that, the tiered monument will also be a major reference point, a center of excellence in research and development, including the development of human potential and knowledge, specifically in this quantum field. So, it will be a center of excellence in this regard for all of humanity. Besides that, since it's a large construction, we'll talk about the dimensions and everything else. It's also planned to become a center, a commercial, tourist, and cultural hub, because there will also have numerous commercial spaces, movie theaters, basically like a huge shopping mall, something along those lines. Obviously, a significant part will be focused on this idea of being a commercial hub, but we can say that about 80% is connected to research, the development of various technologies, and also the development of our own potential. So, for us, all of this is a tiered monument. That's exactly the reason why we're building it. The tiered monument is precisely to demystify all these theories that exist about these great tiered monuments, both the ones that already exist and those that haven't even been discovered yet, that will be in the future. It's exactly to demystify them. Because when you build a tiered monument similar to generate the same kind of technology, we are able to reproduce experiments and validate them in practice. And then, yes, we can produce information and measurable data so we can prove what is still just theory today. So, that's also one of the reasons we're building our own large energy generator, precisely to recover this past and turn that theoretical past into a physical, practical reality.
Exactly. That's really Dakila's way. It's not just theory. We show, we develop, we recover all this knowledge, of course, with the help of our partners. We build, and we're going to replicate everything that was done millennia ago in those places where these things exist. For example, Saqqara, the Saqqara Pyramid. Another example, the Kukulkan Pyramid, the Cam in Chichen Itza in Mexico. Also, all of them, both, were built with the direct help of our partners, even according to the famous Bailu, who told us all about this, right?
Yeah, so, Felipe, and in the same way, this stepped monument follows very similar criteria, like regarding geographic positioning, nodal points, that sort of thing, precisely to be able to enhance the generation of various types of energy. So, just like the other monuments were built, we are also following specific criteria for this construction as well. And, obviously, following the guidance of our partners.
So, that would be the reason for building in Zigurati, right? Why we are building in Zigurati.
Exactly. We are building in Zigurati because it is. Here we are. We're between the southern latitude parallels, 19 degrees, and that makes this place the biggest energy vortex in the Earth system. So, right there in the center, where we're actually building and raising the structure, its central point would be the strongest spot in terms of energy. In fact, we're also, which is interesting, right on the intersection of the solar analemma. The frequencies of the sun's rays fall exactly on this parallel. So, this whole region becomes a huge energy vortex, which we call a frequency of high activity.
So it's at the crossing of the analemma, right? That's right. Where the crossing is exactly on top of where we're building our pyramid in Zigurati.
And it's interesting that it was positioned and centered already anticipating the future electromagnetic pole. In other words, already taking into account the pole reversal.
Exactly. As we've been saying for years, it's not about the Earth flipping upside down. The magnetic North Pole is going to change location. We've been talking about this, and it's going to alter the grid. So, with that in mind, the pyramid, our columned monument, is already being adapted to this new reality of our grid.
This new reality, yes. And precisely because of that, for the next 13,000 years, we're already anticipating all the possible events that could happen so that it can spread throughout this entire new cycle for future and future generations in a way that will truly impact and significantly change the future of our generation.
So, you're saying, what does this mean for us? Let's say, for us at Dakila, what is the vital importance of building this monument beyond everything you've already told us here?
The importance is that it represents the great legacy of knowledge and information that we are leaving for future generations. And it will spread throughout the next 13,000-year cycle. So, the quantum leap that humanity needs to make in the coming years, it will serve as great support, like a great beacon of light in this case.
In fact, it will be the main generator of the energies needed to make this whole leap.
Yes, exactly. What's interesting is that when I think this was during your time, since you've been here longer than I have, when they were researching and trying, using the coordinates, to find the exact spot to center and position the stepped monument, they would place the compass and it would already point in the opposite direction of this structure. What else can we talk about? The benefits?
The benefits. What would be the benefits of these monuments? There are two. There's a small one that's already finished, which is even used in our training, and the large one.
The big one is what makes a construction, because I think this is an interesting point. What makes an ordinary building, since it's being made with cement, with bricks, well, not bricks, with cement, with iron, sand, gravel, and all that. Obviously, considering the artifacts that have already been placed at its base and everything else, and the artifacts that will soon be placed in its columns. But what is it that turns a construction like this into a great generator of energy? It's precisely the shape, this stepped symmetry. Because this symmetry is a resonant technology, and this technology directly affects our electromagnetic field, influencing brain activity. So, this will have an extremely positive impact on our development and also on the use of these energies, because the stepped monument produces tachyonic energy, which is the highest frequency energy in the universe, also known as the frequency of thought, at 3 Hertz.
Exactly.
That's right. Which is the same energy that Christ used to perform his miracles. Because, besides being the energy of thought, it's also connected to our capacity, to our mental ability, or mental technology, as we call it. And mental technology, because it's linked to our ability to create and manipulate matter. So, actually, what Christ was doing there was exactly that. The guy was a master, someone who understood the universal laws, the fundamentals of nature. So, he was able, in a very calm way, to manipulate nature, to interact with it.
He had energy, right? He had energy and the acceleration, the extremely high acceleration of thought, of his brain frequency, to be able to concretely affect matter.
Exactly. And the way he understood universal laws and everything else. So, that makes it possible for us, right? That gives us the ability to really. That's why he used to say, right? You are gods. You can do everything I do. So, you just need to understand all this that we're talking about here.
It's about learning mental technology, isn't it?
Exactly, developing that then. And what's interesting is that, wow, it's starting to rain here. Is that this technology, tachyon energy, it enables a kind of development that puts our biorhythm in sync with the Schumann resonance frequency. And this synchronicity, here's the real trick. This synchronicity will promote balance and stabilization throughout our entire hormonal system. And you know that our hormonal system is closely connected to our rejuvenation, to prolonging life, to the time we need for us to make our quantum leap. So, just the fact that this tachyonic energy allows and helps us to be in sync with the Schumann resonance frequency, which is the frequency that governs life, everything that's alive, is already a huge benefit for all of us. So, there are countless benefits in this regard. In the same way, that puts us in sync with the frequency. It also interacts with our electromagnetic field, speeds up our cells, protons, and electrons, putting us in a state where we can develop our mental faculties. That's also why it's connected to our creative power, because the ability to create. So, it is, in fact, a psychophysical, biochemical process. It's through this process that it happens, and also through our ability to produce thoughts, to visualize, through visualization. When I manage to develop this ability, I reach a level where I truly become God, a co-creator of my own life, and can direct it however I see fit, in the best way possible.
Of course, and that's why, strategically, we built the small one, which is already finished, because this training inside the pyramid, in the step monument, is fundamental for our acceleration, exactly as you're describing, the electrical points, the electric charge, the cellular aspect, our brain activity. So to make sure, we built the small one and we're using it intensely. The large one will have a worldwide reach.
Worldwide, exactly. When we reach a third of the construction, but I believe even a bit before that, as soon as we install, soon, we're going to put a filament, a special metal alloy, along the edges, which we call tachyon wire. It's made of copper, monatomic gold, coated with monatomic gold, vibrated gold.
Brass and a few other components details. Only the vibrated gold, gold vibrated by the beings, receives a bath of light from the beings and its molecular structure is altered. Just to clarify.
So yeah, and then so when we put this metal alloy there, it will already bring in the energies of the universe, like channel those energies and distribute them inside the stepped monument as well as on its exterior. And when it does that, it propagates in circular waves. And this propagation can, in fact, reach the other stepped monuments in the system and already start to wake up those monuments. But with greater intensity, as soon as we finish a third of the structure, that the energy emanated, even with just a third built, will indeed have an extremely positive impact on the other stepped monuments, making them start to produce a certain percentage. They won't be able to produce 100%, because today the necessary mechanism for generating that energy just isn't there anymore, right? The artifacts that were there, that were looted, and so on.
Yeah, and even the shape itself, right? Some of them. We went to Saqqara in 2015, and it was already kind of damaged.
Exactly.
The steps and all that.
And another thing, Saqqara moved out of the vortex. It's not in the same vortex when it was built. If it was built strategically, taking the electromagnetic grid into account.
Yes.
Since that changed, what we did was actually place it at a spot already, anticipating all these changes, right? So it's going to stay active for all this time. But yes, they will start to produce a certain percentage of energy, and this will benefit human beings in every way, physically, mentally, and spiritually, precisely because it puts us in sync with the Schumann resonance frequency. Yeah. But besides these pyramids that will generate a certain percentage of their energy, we'll also have other stepped monuments that we're still going to build in several other locations throughout the system. Because then, in the end, we'll have the entire grid of the Earth system closed with this energy. Have you thought about that?
That's fantastic.
Tachyonic energy all over the Earth system, man. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, we're going to be providing the opportunity for a real leap to happen, even. A leap in consciousness, for people to have more mental clarity, more understanding, improving their perception, the way they see the world. After all, what is this grid going to be? It's going to counteract the geogrid that's out there, using certain antennas they have. Even in the sea, they have antennas in the oceans modulating frequencies specifically to create the opposite effect, to keep the population docile, like sheep. And we, with the help of our partners and their technology, are making all this happen.
So, and we've already done several expeditions to visit these monuments. You mentioned Mexico, the Egyptian pyramids, and so on. So there are a lot of interesting things. If we just do a little research on these stepped monuments, especially regarding how they were built back then, right? How they were constructed at the time. Yeah, according to our research, the construction was done by the Mural civilization, right? They mastered the technology to manipulate the electromagnetic field, horizontally, so that you could.
Just a little detail. The mural are the builders of Ratanaba. Okay, folks? Just a reminder.
Exactly. They built everything, you see, left everything ready. And another thing, they also mastered the manipulation of MDPL. When you manipulate MDPL, you can remove the weight, right? They took the weight off the blocks and could move them around more easily. Another interesting fact is that substances were also found in these monuments, like mead. Mead, according to reports, was connected to the issue of rejuvenation, the prolongation of life, because, according to reports, it's about rejuvenating the internal organs and boosting our electrical charge, right? We're born with our organs in perfect shape, right? Working at 100% and with our electrical charge at its peak. So that's the basic principle of rejuvenation or prolonging life. It's about restoring the function of those organs, right? That's why I think it's fundamental. I think the most important thing for our first step regarding this stepped monument, the greatest benefit it will bring us is precisely putting us in sync with the Schumann resonance. Because it's this synchronicity that will allow us to start the rejuvenation process.
That's really interesting because once, talking with our dear friend Edie Bell, Biluzinho, or Bailu as people call him, I asked, but tell me, in the past, in ancient times, every great civilization that had the opportunity, together with the 9 races, to build these monuments, like in Egypt, or for example, in Chichen Itza, did they really, through these monuments, manage to generate countless frequencies, produce certain artifacts that allowed for this extension of life, and also, obviously through some intense training, they achieve physical transmutation, which is an absurd acceleration of the protons and electrons of our body, of our cells, right? Along with a high level of, brain activity, converting our body into more energy and less matter, okay? It's not that they became ethereal beings floating through space. That's not it. But they managed to make a quantum leap.
Exactly.
To parallel worlds of origin, of our friends from the 49 races. And that's the main goal. May manage to do it in the past, including the Mayans. The ones who trained seriously disappeared, right? It's not that they disappeared out of nowhere. They left their plates full of food and evolved. Exactly. They went through this transmutative process. Not all of them. According to our partners, it was about 70% of them. The 30% who stayed behind got lost the knowledge, lost the conversation, lost control over those technologies. And then they invented countless rituals, cults, practices that have nothing to do with the original purpose, right?
That's exactly it. So we'll have all of that at our disposal for us to make our quantum leap. Yeah, and other interesting things regarding about the cons, about the measurements, right? This stepped monument of ours, it has the architectural design is 63 meters at the base, 63 in height, and 9 in depth. In other words, even the internal measurements, all of them add up to 9. Because we know that, now we're talking about universal mathematics, right?
Yeah, the mathematics of beings has nothing to do with ours.
Exactly, that's right. And we know from this mathematics, we've learned that 9 is a highly positive frequency, right? A frequency of victory, a frequency of expansion, And when you study more deeply all the benefits we can get just from the interference in our field of tatianic energy, it's something incredible that gives us every condition to reach our fullest potential. That's why, the stepped monument would be like the fastest way for you to reach 999, which for us is the ultimate state. The ultimate state for any human being in this system is to reach this frequency, which is exactly what we call the inversion of 666, which is the frequency that the Go imposes on humanity. So just look at the size of the benefit this monument brings us. And I'm not even talking about technology. I'm not talking about other kinds of knowledge. I'm talking about because we are like little walking quantum machines. Right?
Exactly.
We are perfection. We are sparks of the creative energy. So we are quantum machines, but we're not working properly. Why aren't we working properly? Because we've been bombarded in every possible way, which you've already pointed out to us so many times. So what do we need to do now? Reorganize all of this. And this energy is emitted by this stepped monument, by this shape, by this technology. It will give us the ability to adjust everything that's necessary so that our machine becomes perfect, so the energy can flow the way it's supposed to, so we can develop all the potential we're capable of. You get it? So just that alone is, wow, for us, a huge benefit.
Exactly, guys. It has nothing to do. I think the most important thing we also need to emphasize is that this has nothing to do with mysticism, with esotericism, with those, this is technology. This is Lilarial science, which is the science of the 49 races, right, that we're recovering, guys. This is ancient, really ancient. It was widely used in the past, brought by the murals, right? Not just by the murals, but by the 7 kingdoms that existed in the antediluvian period before Noah's last flood, right? In other words, this is a very, very interesting knowledge, pure technology, the real technology that actually brings us comfort and well-being, isn't it? Progress, freedom, understanding, consciousness, evolution. In other words, this is really interesting. And that's exactly what we're here to do.
Yeah. So, Felipe. So, when we talk about making your own miracle happen, just to repeat here so we can understand and reinforce what you said, we're not talking about mysticism. We're talking about technology. We're talking about physics. We're talking about science. This process of realization and attraction happens through a psychophysical process and biorhythm. In other words, if this machine, if the physical, if the psychic, right, if our biorhythm, in other words, if the functioning of this whole machine isn't in good condition, we can't attract, we can't make things happen. That's why our partners have always emphasized this point, right, of always putting us in situations to develop our ability to attract and to achieve. That's how you all are going to become gods, right? In the path, what is the path? The path is to keep moving, stay in motion, always searching, right? Going after it, trying to find out, seeking knowledge, just like our CEO, Yurinder Fernandez, says, right? You're going to have to hear this phrase forever, seek knowledge. Anyway, so if we don't take care of this part, miracle, the miracle that's talked about in religions, it doesn't happen. We know it doesn't exist. It does exist. It's manipulation, right, of matter. There's a way your thoughts interfere and interact with matter. There's the speed you can apply to your thinking. There's what you put in, the amount of energy. And we are quantum machines. We are power plants producing unlimited energy, So, it's an endless force of quantum energy. In other words, We have everything in our hands. Now, we just need to break through all this armor, all this terrible programming that keeps us from moving forward in that direction, right? That's what the stepped monument is for. It will help even those who don't want to be helped, because as the frequency, we're going to create a network over the whole Earth system, so this will directly impact people's electromagnetic field. Of course it will. It will interfere with your line of reasoning. It will affect your perception. It will influence people's creativity. And yes, that will make this progress easier. That will make the evolution you mentioned easier.
Very well, Adriana. Look, that was really cool. It turned out great. I wanted to thank you for your testimony, for sharing your experience, right? And let's keep an eye on things, right? Let's see. Yeah, let's say the expectation is to see all of this happen. We're getting close to that 1/3 mark, aren't we?
Exactly.
The wires are being tied up, put in place, the tachyonic wires. Is that what you call them?
Tachyon wires. That's right.
Exactly.
Look, like I told you, it's a huge research laboratory. Just to spark a bit of curiosity in people, I can't remember all of this off the top of my head, but just so you have an idea of the things we're going to study there, develop there, and, most importantly, prove there. So, bioplasmic technologies, time warps, antimatter effects, the field of metaphysics, energy conversions, string theory, background radiation, electromagnetic fields, free and scalar energy, seismic and cosmic interferences. Here, I'll make a connection to remind you that our stepped monument is linked to several other important points we have in ziggurats. In fact, they will also be connected to our mini space agency, since we've just demolished our
We're renovating it now, right?
we're renovating our observatory, right? And we're going to build a mini space agency. So all this knowledge will be interconnected with several other points. And there are other things you know about too, which we'll be presenting to people soon, all coming together to form a big complex, hence this large laboratory. I'm fascinated by this whole thing. Yeah, and besides that, photonic particles and interactions with parallel realities. Here, I'll make another connection to remind you that we're not even sure if I can say this, but we're going to have a room in the stepped monument up there, much closer to the top, which is room 9. This room, we could say, would be the room for holding conferences, interdimensional, exactly, between universes. Because there was a time when Byler told us, look, that's where you'll have the true conversation between gods. So here he was saying, us with them. It's because it's between gods. So they put us there too, with the same ability, on the same level.
Just to be clear, all of this is physical. Folks, nothing abstract, everything physical, just like we do in our conversations with our partners. But over there, it's going to be a much more elaborate place, much more, let's say, it's going to be something much stronger.
For sure. And besides that, teleportation and all the other things that are involved. Because you know, Felipe, we are presenting our science to the world. It's a science that's different from traditional science, because we try to explain or fill in those gaps that traditional science can't explain. It's to explain the phenomena that they call anomalies, because there's no explanation for them. That's where we come in too, to study the universal laws, the fundamentals of nature, right? And all of this is connected to what we know as modulating waves, which you've talked a lot about here.
That's right.
And we know that modulating waves govern life. They're everything that exists. So
they are part of the fundamentals of nature, which govern not only our world, but also those of our partners, folks.
Exactly, all universes. Yeah, so the stepped monument is the representation of this science. The concrete representation, literally, of this science that we are making available to the world as well. So here are just a few items, right, of everything that we still have to study and develop, obviously, and we're open, right, to partnerships with the scientific community or with schools anyway, with researchers who want to join forces, because what are we looking for? We're looking to develop conditions and possibilities to deliver to humanity to help us in this process, right? That you keep emphasizing that we need to make this quantum leap.
It's time, isn't it?
And another thing, everything we've mentioned here, everything we've talked about so far, according to Bilo, isn't even 10% of what it will actually make available to us when it's operating at 100%. That's why when he said that it would be a great, what was the word he used? He used it in the sense of distributing, like a great distributor of infinite riches. It's because there are so many things here that we have no idea about yet, things that are still going to come to us, that will still be presented to us. We know there are still many technologies yet to be presented. So this is just a little taste, right? Just 10% of what we're doing here. There's still really a lot more to present. So there's still a lot ahead of us. And Felipe, look, since we're putting our stepped monument out there for everyone, we're now working on a website, which we intend to use to show everyone who wants to follow along step by step, who wants to keep up with the progress of the project, because you know how it is with our partners. Yeah, we don't have much more information than that. Why? Because with them, it works like this. We take a step, right? So they can take another step towards us. Isn't that right?
Exactly.
That's you now.
It's give and take. It's give and take. We do our part and they do theirs. It's not just handed over just like that.
No, that's never happened.
That's something I always say.
It hasn't happened. Yeah, so the more we move, depending on our actions, they bring us more information. So, for example, this copper wire, it just showed up now, right? So, obviously, from the beginning, we already knew there would be several artifacts that would still be placed along its entire length. Yeah, but the other information we still don't have. What? Because we need to finish each stage so they can bring us more information. As we complete each stage, they bring more and more information. That's not how this partnership works. So nothing is handed to us on a silver platter and nothing is easy, right? And I find it interesting that they're like this. Wow. This way, they keep us moving all the time. In other words, they're constantly teaching us how we can truly become God, co-creators of our own lives, by making sure we stay in motion, because we get so crazy for information that we do everything, we finish everything, right? There was another day when I even heard you say, look, when I got my assignment, I made sure to do it right away, because they quickly come with more information as we get things done.
You need to act, you need to do it, and keep moving. Then they bring you more technology, more information. There needs to be movement. It's all an exchange. It's a partnership. It's two hands, ours and theirs, right?
And so what's important for us to mention as well, Felipe, is that, yes, this stepped monument is being built with our own resources, right? The person leaving it at the forefront is Yurindir through Dakila Research, but it's being built in partnership with all the Dakila associates. So we need to mention, right, and I actually want to take this opportunity to thank the people who are with us, following along with us every day. It's really important because we know this legacy is ours. It's ours, right? And I think all of us need to celebrate together the completion of each stage, right, as we make them available, as we finish them. So this brings immense joy and satisfaction to all of us, right? So yeah, sharing and telling you all this. It's a quantum generator, right, of energy that's being built by many hands. That's important, right? And of course, we're open-armed, right, to welcome more people who want to join us and walk with us on this project.
Repeat that, then. I don't think you actually gave the website. You said it was going to be put up.
Yes, the website's still under construction.
Right.
Okay, it's under construction. And as soon as we finish it, then I'll send it to you and you can share it on your channel.
Perfect.
And we're going to do a broad announcement so that everyone can follow along. And we're also going to make all this information available there so everyone can learn about it and understand why we're building the largest stepped structure of our time.
Look at that, huh? What a milestone, right? Fantastic. Adriana, thank you. Hey, it ended up being 40 minutes. See how it is? Things just flow. It's amazing, the energy. It's like it just clicks and goes. One topic leads to another. You remember things. You start connecting the dots. Yeah, you know, I thought it would be about 15, but here we are, 42 minutes in. No, it's all good. It turned out great. You really covered everything, didn't you? What we wanted to get across is exactly so people can understand, you know, what's going on, why it's a step monument, and above all, it's not about something mystical. We've heard so many people, right? Oh, that's for rituals. They're going to do this and that. And we've heard a bunch of nonsense. So it's just to tell it like it is, folks. This is what it is. So once again, Adriana, thank you so much for your account, for your testimony. If you have any final thoughts, we'll wrap up your testimony here.
Well, actually, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to share with everyone what we're doing, to leave our doors open to anyone who wants to join us on this project. Thank you for your attention, and of course, we're available to answer more questions. And if you want to talk more, soon we'll be wrapping up another stage, right? Maybe we can bring more information, including about, this Tatian thread issue. So we're at your disposal. You can count on.
Thank you so much, Adriana. Really, thank you very much. Guys, stay tuned, because as soon as we have more information, maybe I'll even bring Adriana back to talk with us some more. So thanks a lot, Adriana.
You're welcome. Take care.
Thank you.